Well, hey, Ed. Hey, I appreciate you joining me on this fine Friday. How you doing?
Man. Good. Thanks for having me and helping me burn down the end of the week. Summer's wrapping up, and this is a good time to catch up. It's been a few months.
Yeah, it has indeed. Always enjoy our conversations. And hey, welcome to the InnSync Show. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from?
Yeah, so I live in Orlando, Florida. Grew up in New Hampshire, so I'm definitely a person who escaped the snow. Living in Orlando, you can't avoid the hospitality industry, so I got involved in the hospitality industry pretty young, and which gave me kind of the base of knowledge I needed to really build my own way through the industry. So I've been building technology for our industry since the early 2000s. And have always focused on just solving problems that I thought were crazy about our industry. So first one was Easy Yield with the channel management platform back, before anyone was doing that, and sold that to TravelClick. And then after doing that, got involved with Flip.to to start fixing things on the marketing side of the world. So I'm a reformed revenue distribution person now living in the marketing world.
Nice. Love it. Yeah, I always kind of tell people I'm a recovering designer now in digital marketing, so I can really relate to that one. Topic of it's attribution and marketing channels. It's been all the hot buzz. I came up with something that's been top of mind for quite some time, and I can't think of a better person to help talk about the consumer as a hotel's best marketer. Can you explain a little bit more about what the heck does that mean?
Well, I mean, let's start with the most interesting piece of that, which is it's always been that way. And old ideas are old ideas because they're good ideas. And just because everything changes doesn't mean the old ideas no longer apply. It's just it changes what it means to you. So when you talk about the different elements of what that can mean, think about everything we talk about as an industry now with sites like TripAdvisor and Google reviews. That's your consumer speaking up about their experience with you. And listen, if it's positive, that's great. If it's negative, that you feel that as well. But it also creates an opportunity to better understand your consumer. So when you talk about the consumer being the best marketer for hotels, it goes beyond just the old days where it was word of mouth marketing that you had no understanding of what that was doing for you, whether it was positive or negative, right? But now it's so intertwined into all of how we consume and research decisions we're going to make, that this is key. And what's happened since we've gone digital in all of our marketing, right? You shouldn't even call it digital marketing anymore. It's just marketing now.
Absolutely.
This statement of consumers being your best marketers has never been truer, right? It doesn't need to even be someone seeing someone share their point of view on how they feel about a hotel, about a destination, greatly impacts how you view any other information you consume in that. So understanding that, harnessing that in the way you approach, and really, let's go back to old ideas. We are the hospitality industry. I have news for you. Your consumer's experience with you starts well before they show up. It's in the digital. And so if you're not living and breathing this mantra that the consumers are your marketers, you're actually hurting your guest experience before they even get to your hotel, because you're leaving it up to chance that what a person's going to learn about you, is by whatever they can find.
But Ed, I'm gonna have to push back with you on that a little bit. Hey, a happy guest does not show up on any attribution report, so it must not exist.
Yeah, it doesn't, I guess, except it does affect your ADR, right? Listen, we don't sell rooms. We don't sell tangible products. We sell time. And the time that people spend is based on the experience that they want to have. And that experience isn't just the things they want to do. It's how they want to be treated. It's how they view the amount of effort to have that experience, right? Because there's different types of trips. Some trips are high effort. I want to go hiking through a mountain range. That's a high effort trip. or I want to escape and unplug from everything and lazy by a pool. Each one of those create different needs that the person wants to make sure are met, different expectations of how much hassle they're willing to go through. So if you're not engaging your consumer to get them to speak about what it is that made them choose you, what it is that ultimately made them happy, and oh, by the way, you can't ignore it. Oh, what was the problem? One, your product's not going to be right. You're because you don't understand your consumer. And two, your other consumers aren't going to be able to discover you effectively because you don't understand what your consumer wants. You're not correctly, putting out the story to attract other consumers. So I know you jest on me. It doesn't show up on the P&L. I mean, it's hospitality, and we are the hospitality industry. We don't sell porte-cochees. We don't sell empty rooms.
Yeah, I thought it was a nice guest room. I thought it was all about that.
Yeah,
right?
no, I mean, I always like to joke with people that I think our industry is a front for furniture industry because we sure like to show a lot of pictures of rooms without people in them with lots of interesting furniture on it. But that's not what we sell. We sell experience. And so in selling experience, your consumer is the most important asset that you have, not just to the obvious because they have the money that you want. It's actually because they have the knowledge, but they also have the voice to really be key to you. And so, your consumer needs to be the first thing you think about in anything that you're doing in marketing, right? So you have a goal in marketing. Well, your goal is goal number 2. Goal number 1 is what's good for my consumer. If you don't have goal number 1 in mind in everything you do, being that it's good for your consumer, every other goal you're trying to achieve will feel like you're running uphill with a giant stone, and you're going to fail a lot.
Ah, man, you hit it right on the head. However, that strategy might have worked in 1980, where
no one could know,
exactly,
because
there
every
was
one of
always
your
the
consumers,
next customer standing behind the one that you just burned, right?
Exactly. Well, and I mean, you got away often back then on the most important part of real estate, which is location, right? So you could just get by on being in the right location. But let's be honest, in all the best locations, there's an oversaturation of room inventory. Absolutely. So that means there's choice. And then working against you even more versus those old days is everyone has a voice today. And it's very easy to find the voices to hear what people think about things.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's you can better bet that they're gonna, before they hit that book or buy now button, they are absolutely going to be looking at your reviews, right? And
heck yeah. And why not? I mean, if we really think about it, and I talk about this a lot too, is our industry is overly obsessed with retail and the way that retail does things, but we completely ignore all the things retail did to be able to earn the strategy that they have. And it was all investing in de-risking the purchase, right? Think about Amazon. Amazon wasn't a behemoth until they figured out how to make everything easily returnable and make that no hassle. That's when they took off. And we'll never be able to do that unless you're willing to say, if you show up to my hotel and you don't like it, you can leave with no charge. You're not going to be able to get by taking a retail approach to how you market yourself. You need to sell the dream. And guess what? No one trusts you because marketers tend to, historically left unchecked, they tend to not be great at living up to, goal number 1 is it's got to be good for my consumer. So because of that, people don't trust brands. They don't trust a business's voice as much as they trust random other people on the internet. So if you're not thinking consumer first, if you're not engaging your consumers, because by the way, I thought when you were talking about a happy traveler doesn't show up on the P&L, I thought the end of that sentence was going to be a happy traveler doesn't tell anyone. Because yes, it's actually when you are happy and you have your expectations are met, you're going to go through less to tell the world that, unless you're engaged by the business, by the hotel saying, we would love for you to tell the world about the experience you had. Then you can actually start balancing that scale of the unhappy guest creates a very loud voice, and really start looking at how can I get even the people who had no friction in their trip? Because listen, every trip has a high point and a low point. And I guarantee you, in almost all the trips, neither made the trip one thing or the other, right? So the worst trip has a high point, right? The best trip has a low point. We need to be mindful of that when we talk about consumers as our marketers, because you can really turn a disaster of a trip into a lifetime relationship by how you recover and how you handle it. And you can motivate someone who all their expectations were met, and it isn't obvious to them that it's beneficial for you if they told people that. Absolutely. By telling them like this helps us substantially. So in your marketing, consumer first in everything, in how you make decisions, in how you set goals, and then even in how you look at reaching new consumers. Try your consumer first, see who they can introduce you to, see how they can help you.
Absolutely. This whole concept of your consumer as your marketer, obviously you mentioned retail, extremely important, but why is it even that much more important in hospitality?
And it's what I was talking about. It's the risk of the purchase. I have to stay with you if I book you. Right. So like I have to, it's not only the financial of I'm paying you, I have to live through it. So, if you really think about that, retail doesn't have that problem. So we can't be taking the retail path. We actually have to, explain to people the value proposition we have to offer. So, again, you talked about the P&L. By the way, if the buzz of the world is you're the greatest thing ever and everyone just worships what you have to offer, you're charging more because your supply and demand equation is weighted well over to the demand side because the buzz is that you're a must see, right? We see that all the time in everything when things go viral for positive reasons, that it can make brands. It can look at Elf on the Shelf, a 20-person organization that's one of the most well-known brands in the world. But that happened because the consumer was so elated with it and they talked about it and they told others about it. That's a perfect example of a tiny army that just, hit the level of massive global brand. And it's because it was a consumer first approach.
Could you, to add on a little bit of that, would you also say that travel or an exceptional experience is even a deeper emotional connection, right?
Well, listen, if you think about what we do.
Well, it's one thing to buy a nice pair of shoes, right? Wear them. It's the way that you made them feel. But when you have a family outing and you created the most incredible memories of all time, that takes that purchase and that experience to a whole different level, right?
Yeah. And really think about it. Let me ask you, you have kids who have grown to a point where I'm sure you think back on their childhood often. Do you remember that time you bought a TV and you guys spent time in front of the TV? No.
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 Nope.
But think about all the trips you took and all the firsts that you got to watch your children experience. And oh my gosh, I'll be honest with you, I never understood Disney until I had kids. And when I watched my kids' brains explode because they couldn't understand that's Mickey in front of me, like watching that as a parent, that leaves fingerprints on your soul for the rest of your life. And that's what's special about hospitality is even the littlest thing can stick with your customer forever. And you see it in who works in this industry. The people who get that, the people who like chase that feeling and understand that the person that just walked past me is probably going to remember these days for the next 30 years. That doesn't exist in most other consumer products, consumer services, right? That level of emotional connection, because it is the experience, and it's usually the experience with others that's sticking with them, and you got to be the canvas that memory was painted on.
It's funny, you think this is so ironic. I literally, right before we jumped on, booked a trip back to Orlando for my daughter's cheer competition. 2 days ago, I shared our photo shoot on Lure Agency page of my twins, the one and only break stardom. They wanted to be famous. They found out how hard work it was. But that experience, I will never forget that. I still have the photos that are over my desk right now of them playing on the golf course. And it's incredible. It's something that is ingrained in me. And I think of it almost daily, that experience. Yeah. It's incredible. Unlike anything else that, like you said, I can't remember even when I bought a TV last.
Right. Same size purchase though, right? Than most trips.
Yeah.
And honestly, you had way more exposure to the TV than you did that trip, but that trip stuck with you, man. And
think about all the people that just saw my post about my trip organically, right? That's not measurable. And it kind of
actually it is, but you have to do some work to make that happen.
No, because who knows if I call right now, I just told you, right? I can't connect it to an analytics report.
No, but you say that, but actually, I mean, if you're thoughtful in how you build consumer journeys, you can measure a lot of it.
A lot, but not the dark. And they call
the dark. I mean, there's always that moment that you're never going to catch because it was a tree in the woods, right? We don't know if it made a sound. But that doesn't mean it's not valuable. It doesn't mean we shouldn't invest in it. And it's really funny. Just it. That's our industry gets that when the person's in front of them. But then we revert back to this, you're a number when you're not in front of us, right? When you're on my website, you're a number. You're not a human. You're not my guest. And that's hurting us. And that honestly, it's why OTAs exist. And that's why, there's this over focus on price in most of our marketing because we're not correctly thinking through the value proposition and correctly positioning our value proposition. Again, this is what your consumer wants. You look at all the research of all the searches people do, all the sites people visit, while they're planning a trip. You want to know why a lot of that happens? Because we don't give them what they need to make the decision to be with us. So I have to leave your site and then I have to go to Google and look at family-friendly things to do around this hotel because I'm traveling with my 10-year-old or my 11-year-old and my 8-year-old. I shouldn't have to do that. And oh, by the way, when I do that, someone else could steal me from you. Bingo. Right? You had me.
As soon as they get out your front door, you run that risk, right?
Right. So when you talk about consumers as your best marketers, you should be spending time understanding why your consumers chose you, what they liked about you, what they didn't like about you. What else did they do while they stayed with you? Because unless you are a mega resort, they didn't spend all their time inside your room or your bar or your porte-cochere, all the things we show pictures of on our website. Marketing is obviously more than just the effect of acquiring others, right? It's understanding how do we sell our value proposition? How do we present our story? And a big part of your story is actually the lens that every one of your travelers views you through, understanding that, being able to put that out into the world to find more people, because a happy person is happy because you met the needs and you exceeded the needs of what they had versus what they paid you. Well, if you can find carbon copies of that person, all you have to do is what you did for that person, and those people will be happy too. That's targeting, right? That's understanding who my traveler is. Well, the way you need to do that is you need to understand your traveler and then get your traveler to also tell their friends, their family, because guess what? That's targeted. Most of their friends and family are going to be incredibly similar to them. It's going to be similar geography that they live in, similar social economic background, right? So there's so much depth to the statement of consumers are your best marketers that you really have to peel it all back and understand this is research, this is distribution, this is content strategy. All of that ties up into that statement.
I couldn't agree with you more. In fact, I will come out and say, Ed, creating happy guests is not an option, period. There's no happy, is there?
No, you have to do it. It's end of story. This is our job. If we don't do it, we don't exist.
Exactly. And it's going back even further, what you had in relation to that connection, that relationship with the guest. One of the things that has always intrigued me is that relationship between the OTA and the property, right? things are, hey, if I want XYZ room, I need it for the night. Works great if it's a seamless transaction. But the moment I want something special, or I want a refund and I call the hotel, what happens?
Right. And so, when you talk about that, why OTAs exist, they exist because our industry was ignoring the needs of its consumer.
Exactly.
And there's lots of different examples of that. I mean, even myself, who I've always understood the negative impact that booking an OTA has to a hotel, but there are still times where I chose the OTA path, and it was because I had fear that if I didn't, I wasn't going to have a good experience. I did not trust the site. I did not trust the information. I needed to go to the OTA to make sure that it was trustworthy. I needed a brand to put their stamp of approval on the experience. Those are easy misses, right? Like, we shouldn't be missing those. Some of the more difficult ones that the OTAs are winning on now are like the friction of mobile payment, right? Like, why does your mobile conversion stink? Because payment on your booking engine is a pain in the butt. I'm holding my phone. I got to hold up my card.
Make it hard for them to give them money, right?
Right. So some of it is more difficult, but some of it is easy, and some of it is what the core of our industry has always been. The best GMs I've ever met are the lounge lizards, the ones who like to be out in front and asking guests about their trip and where they're from. Why are they doing that? That's market research. Right? That's really what it is. And it's also creating that human connection, because that is what our industry is about. So, all of that plays into this.
That is an interesting comment that you made right there. What is the value to a guest, to the bottom line, that's not measured, of that GM spending 5 minutes to shake hands with a family of 4? That is,
oh my gosh.
Coffee. Could you
can easily, listen, you can see it. If you look at hotels that do this, like one that comes to mind not far from us is the Hard Rock in Daytona. Their GM, he's a young man, he's younger than I am, but he gets it, and he spends most of his time out with guests. And I'll tell you what, you look at their repeat business, multiple repeat inside the same calendar year. So I'm not talking annual trip repeat. I'm talking 3-4 times a year repeat. That isn't just the asset. That's that staff making people feel special, making them feel connected, making them feel like I'm not just here because you want my money. I'm here because you enjoy what you're doing. You enjoy interacting with me, and you enjoy being my host, right? Because that's really what we are.
Absolutely. I call it I'm aging myself right now, but the whole Cheers effect.
Yeah, where everybody knows your name.
That's exactly. And soon as you walk into a place and you feel that it's your place, you're being treated well, you tend to share that news with as many people because you feel important too, right?
Yeah.
That hotel knows me. That's my place. Let me give you a nice recommendation, because you feel good when people come back and go, oh my God, that was the best recommendation you've given us. That is,
yeah. And it's so mind-blowing nowadays, right? Like, to the point where I can remember every time it happens, because it happens so rarely.
Right.
And it's an easy opportunity. And oh, by the way, if you're clever in your marketing, you can build some of that in so that it's easier for your team to do things like that. So it's thoughtfulness, right? All of this is core in thoughtfulness. Thoughtfulness should extend to our marketing, right?
Absolutely.
So, and where that thoughtfulness comes from is you actually are interested in this person having the time of their life. So I want you to take that on property attitude, and I want you to start extending it before and after. And why I say that is a lot of the problems that we have in our industry is, again, we're not going consumer first. I'll give you a perfect example: email marketing. We are the greediest email marketers.
Yes,
we are
indeed.
So greedy.
One-sided.
You're only going to hear from me when I need something.
That's exactly.
Unfortunately for you, we constantly need something. Don't care what we know about you. I don't care if you told us I come here every year in June. I'm still going to make you listen to every week that I have rooms to fill, I'm gonna make you listen to it. And that needs to stop. It needs to cut back. We need to think about different ways. We need to put the consumer first in our marketing, because then the consumers become our marketers.
Absolutely. In fact, we have a hard, fast rule here at Lure. We have no sales in our email outreach. It's one-sided. It's all about them. It's all value, not about us.
Yeah.
We don't need to be about us.
Right.
With the right patience, the right relationship building, the consumer will come to us because they understand, they begin to trust you that you
right.
really care about them, right?
Yeah. Putting effort in. It's amazing. It's amazing what it does for you.
I know.
And I know it's tough. I know everyone listening to this that has to write those emails, they didn't choose to do that. They were put under pressure to hit a goal, and we somehow find a way to erode the rails we set for that. Like, we're not going to do that. We're going to segment, but man, we're in a really bad place right now. So you know what? Let's widen it a little bit. You know, we really gotta make these numbers. But I'm telling you, every time you do that, sure, you may have hit those short-term numbers, but it was at an expense, and it's at the expense of how your consumer feels about you. And you're going to start drying up that consumer is your best marketer movement. And you really need to be thoughtful of that.
And you may pay the price, right? Those that
you pay it.
greedy will get hit with spam complaints and ultimately a penalty on your domain, which then you're in really hot water, right?
Yeah, but listen, let's talk about human nature. No one in our industry is paying attention to that, because that does not immediately affect you, right? That builds over time. It becomes a weight that slows you down. And by the time you realize it happened, it's not attached to the emotion of the decision you made. So then we clean it up as much as we can, and then we keep going forward with that bad behavior. But I'm telling you, if you adopt the consumer's your best marketer mindset, and if you think about your marketing as what's good for my consumer first, then what meets my goals second, you would be amazed. You become the lucky one, that it just seems like everything works for you all. It just seems like
right?
Everything that you do is so easy. And so that's really, the important thing, and that is measurable. And I mean, you can see it because the companies that do it right, everything they do works, right? Like,
absolutely,
they're not stressed.
You uncovered just a great another topic, and I come from, before marketing, I was more on the traditional branding side.
Mm-hmm.
Branding has become a dirty word in hospitality. When I throw the word branding out to a GM, I see the eyes glaze back. They equate branding with a high power agency spending hundreds of hours on what seemingly is a printed document that is put on a shelf, and there's dust that collects on it. It is never brought out and uncovered, right? But when done correctly, and you begin to pull out your value proposition, your pillars, and you weave that into your messaging, now you become a product that you've got so many more areas to be marketable other than price, right?
Yeah.
There's so much more to that.
Well, and you want to talk about some of why they roll their eyes. Branding requires you to know what your mission is as a business.
Yes. And
I often find that is not a clear thing at most hotels.
That's
most
right.
hotels, if you ask them, what's your mission? Why do you exist? What is your purpose? How are you different? There isn't an answer to that. And so this is part of why they're rolling their eyes at branding, because branding is that uncomfortable exercise of, I have to face the fact that some of our fundamentals aren't lived up to in our organization. We don't have a purpose. We don't live and breathe a mantra or a methodology or a vision. And so those are the people that, I paid you to do all this branding work, but I'm not going to adopt it. I'm not going to live it. And the best brands live and breathe their brand.
Absolutely.
They know what their purpose is. They know how it's supposed to make someone feel. And that extends to your people. That extends to how you approach treating everything. And the ones who do the best at that, again, it just seems like everything's easier for them, right? So it is measurable.
Exactly. When you got that wonky foundation, I'll use the of a brand.
Yeah, let's construct this puppy. Let's make it construction. This is a real estate based industry.
Yeah, you build on a shaky foundation. It's not built for performance and longevity. It's built as a temporary structure, which means it hinders your ability to attract the best and brightest, right?
Right. Yep.
Which then transitions to everything else is so intertwined, right? It's insane.
It's all, we call it gravity. Develop gravity.
Yep.
And how you develop gravity is having a purpose for your business, knowing who your consumer is and how you serve your consumer, because that's what you do as a business, you serve. And living and breathing that, and living and breathing your differential. And you do start to develop gravity. That gravity attracts employees. That gravity attracts more consumers. That gravity attracts success. But that gravity is developed by being thoughtful and purposeful in everything that you do.
But I thought we're hiring. As soon as we put out a banner for that, we're going to get a flood of applicants because we're so great, right?
Sure, yeah. Except we have a black eye right now as an industry, which is we're an industry that often talks about, we're a great industry because your career is going to develop and we promote from within and we take care of you. We're a family. And we cut you as soon as times got tough.
That's right.
And now we have to live with we made a promise. And we promised that we were a family. But as soon as it got tough, and it got tough, listen, some people had to cut, right? But you have to live with what that reality did to you, which is it makes you less attractive as an employer. And you got to start changing we're not family, right? We're something else. And it's actually funny too. I would never work for a company that says it's family, because I got to be honest with you, family is messy. I want friends. I want the people I chose.
Right, exactly.
That challenge each other and things like that. So again, this all comes down to consumer first. That actually helps you develop a vision. That helps you develop a brand, because as soon as you start thinking through how do I be consumer first, you actually have to start understanding what does your consumer see in you, and then you have to start living what they value in you, and you have to start correcting what they don't like about you, and that leads to what I was saying. You end up having a purpose, you end up having a brand, you end up building that gravity, and it actually makes everything better. It makes employees want to work for a place that consumers want to be at, right? It draws everything in.
Hey, Ed, this all sounds just pie in the sky. It's all great. Consumers are our best marketers. Hey, that's great. But share something solid with us, an example that you've seen this really happen.
Oh, you're asking me how to boil the ocean.
Yes.
It's one pot at a time, guys. So pick a place that you're going to master this mantra with. And there are some great brands that have done it. I'm blessed I get to work with Margaritaville. Margaritaville lives and breathes consumer first. They want people to have exceptional experiences throughout every aspect of their thought and journey with Margaritaville. Where did that start? Well, I mean, let's talk about, they're an interesting one. They started as Jimmy Buffett, as a musician who created a lifestyle, and then they turned it into a business first on the restaurant side. And what did they care the most about? They cared the most about people leaving really satisfied, right? Mm-hmm. Really enjoying a unique experience that lived up to the expectations set, which, by the way, again, they set the expectations. So this isn't an immovable thing. So what are some examples of where they do things incredibly well? They're obsessed with feedback. They're obsessed with knowing how they did, what they could do better, to the point where their senior leadership, it's their focus, right? And so that's an easy one. Start with reviews, asking for reviews, doing things like that. Then once you start understanding your traveler, understanding what they like about you, you can start extending that further. Like, hey, I learned what you need. I learned that part of the reason you were unhappy is we didn't set the expectation right. So start editing how you present yourself. Mm-hmm. And then when people are generally happy, then go for the easiest thing of all. Could you please tell people about it? Could you please tell your friends and family, we would love to have you back. We would love to have your friends. It's all, and this isn't, I'm saying it and I'm narrating it as human to human, but all of that's possible in the digital world too, right? That's as simple as thanking someone and saying, hey, if you want to share something with your friends, here's something special for them that you can give them to come be our guest, right? That's super easy, but you have to be really thoughtful on it, right?
And I'm assuming timing has a lot to do with it, right?
Timing is everything, right?
Right.
Ask at the right time and you get a really high conversion rate. Ask at the wrong time, you get the opposite. And you can see just endless versions of this. There's lots in our industry that get this right, that do it incredibly well. You're seeing more and more hotels getting their consumers to give them stories, and they're putting those stories on their website, and they're asking people to share things on social, things like that. These are all super easy, basic starting points.
That's great. What are some more advanced things? 'Cause I've seen, like I said, Margaritaville and one in particular, and Hard Rock. But let's use one of our mutual partners that's doing a very, very good job of doing it. Stonewall Resort, West Virginia, right? West Virginia, not the, not your traditional destination, but just
beautiful. Holy smokes!
I've been blown away I love the team there is incredible. They've been there for decades. Mutual friend Chris Adia and Evan, rest of the crew there, and the salespeople are just exceptional. And so, can you explain a little bit more about how they've been leveraging their consumers? Because I see a lot of activity coming out of them.
Yeah. So I mean, fair disclosure here, they work with us, and
yes.
Fair disclosure, why we care so much about this is we believe it. So we built journeys that are designed around helping you with these things. And Stonewall is one of the great examples of that. And some of it's really simple. Go look at their different, journey when you're going to plan a trip with them. It has a picture of one of their team members involved talking to you and helping guide you through this. And oh, by the way, what did that net for them? It opened up the ability for them to ask people to tell Stonewall who they are. And what does that turn into? Stonewall has a massive database of people that felt comfortable telling them who they were, because Stonewall presented the value proposition, not the price, the value proposition. They presented the human beings that work there. They created a personal connection. And so when you look at it, they're a resort that gets it on property. They get it in digital just as much, right? They know their business is around experiences. If you ever go to a group event there, holy smokes, the experiences you can have. Well, it's because they get that. They get that their business is the business of experience. They don't sell bedspreads and furniture, and they don't sell porte-cochees. They sell experiences, and that's you can see it everywhere. And so yes, they work with us. They work with you. And why they work with us and you is we're experts in how do you bring that into marketing, and how do you turn that from a quiet movement into a massive audience. And their Benchmark in general, right, is very good at this. It's really interesting about them. But Stonewall and Chris and Evan, they get it so much that they work it into the threads of everything that they make, and so they talk about their guest experience in their marketing. So their emails aren't just come stay here. They're check out these cool stories from guests that had these types of experiences. They've run campaigns on our platform. So our platform is normally like, share your story about your experience with us. During the pandemic, Chris, realizing that he couldn't have fun with travelers right now, instead turned our platform around and basically said, we miss having fun with you. We know you're missing traveling. Share who is your favorite person or buddy. And they use buddy because they're pet friendly.
Right.
So share with us. Let's reflect on better times. That campaign was insane. And it didn't cost them much of anything, because they knew what people needed at that time. So they needed an escape, and they couldn't get out and escape. So they needed a memory escape. So that Stonewall went to their guests and said, who do you love traveling with? Not come stay with us right now, or come stay with us as soon as we open.
Unrealistic. Right.
Yeah. It was just, who do you love traveling with? Because they wanted it. They wanted to see it. They missed their guests, and they knew their guests were missing.
It was
people.
the right message, being empathetic, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And what did it do? My God, when they could open up, a lot of the people who engaged booked immediately. Like, that was the place that they went, and you could see it. It was the coolest hockey stick to see of, look at all this engagement. And normally that engagement drifts over time. And it was like, it went from engagement to we're open to bookings. Like, so you talked about measuring. If you do things right, you can take these concepts and make them very tangible. And Stonewall is a perfect example of that. And it's because Chris gets it.
Yeah, I don't know if you've been watching what they've been doing on LinkedIn lately, because we manage more. We're more on that group side ourselves, and so working with the sales team has been fantastic. But they've been so thoughtful on humanizing them, the brand, right? They've been spotlighting their employees and their staff, novel idea on LinkedIn, right? Incredible engagement on LinkedIn, because it shows another face of the hotel, another dimension. But imagine for the recruitment side, if somebody is considering working at Stonewall, they're going to go to their LinkedIn page, and then they see them praising how great their staff is. And there's a lot to work with, because there's some fantastic people there. And it's just, it seems,
but again, that's where we started with this whole thing, that when you do good things, it has a threaded effect. It creates that gravity.
Right.
And Stonewall's a perfect example of that. Listen, did they spend years developing this strategy? No, they just understand their traveler, they understand their consumer, their employee. And guess what? We all are. We're all human beings. Human beings have very, very basic needs. And those needs, you meet them. We want that. Hey, right? I want to go. I want to be there. I want to work there. Right. I want to visit there. It all intertwines.
No, I couldn't agree with you more, man. Hey, this sounds fantastic. But how is this all in with the conversation and the obsession with attribution, right?
Sure.
It's always about, at the end of the day, the bottom line. We're creating the happy customers, delivering on your promise. It all sounds fantastic, but how do you take that and those concepts and you attribute that to the financials? So can you share a little bit about that with us?
Yeah, so I'll use a concept our platform does, but you can do this without our platform and other things. So when you let's talk about the asking someone to tell someone about you. Okay, if you make that an open ask, at best, the person hopefully will remember that when they go searching. Or you could go a step further and say, hey, we loved having you so much. We're glad you had a great time here. Here's something special you can share with your friends and family should they want to come. So you could give them a little discount that they could share. And you may measure some of that, but you have to remember, if I tell you, Cory, that last weekend I was at Compass Hotel in Anna Maria Sound with the family, and it was a great time. Let me ask you, did the first thought that just popped into your head was, thank goodness Ed said that because I need to book a hotel right now?
Right.
Right. So if I said to you, hey, here's a discount for it, you're maybe a 1% chance that you'll do something with that and that'll be trackable. Or if I said to you, hey, I had a great time there. Here, go look. They're featuring my experience on their site. And then you go.
By the way, I saw it was the margarita shot, right?
Yep. So when you go there, it's about me. And it's about my son, who the picture was of, and the experience that we had. And then what did they ask you to do? They asked you to show love for me. And when you did that, they said, hey, for doing this, you can unlock an offer if you ever think you want to come stay with us. Do you want that? And if you say yes to that, they're actually going to nurture you and educate you on what are the experiences to have. It's dreaming. So they understood to engage you correctly to where it would be measurable. They had to first understand why you were there in the first place. You weren't there for them upon first click. You were there for me. And then how do you shift that conversation to understand, would you at all be interested in them? And that's what they did. And then they didn't go for the jugular and say, you got to book it by next week or you're out.
Too
No,
much too
instead,
soon, right?
open-ended. If you think you're ever going to be interested, here's something special for you. We'll send it your way. We'll send you some information on the great times that people have here. And what does that create? That creates a behavioral set of steps that if it's 6 months later that you decide to do it, they can track it because they walked you through it. So this is where we talk about, what do you need as my friend? Well, what you need as my friend is what you're going for in the first place, which was curiosity. And then even if you are interested and you want to move forward, you need time. So they need a process that allows you to take that time and still make it trackable. And so what does that create? It creates it's a funnel, folks. Micro yeses. Each one of those are measurable, and they eventually lead to that transaction, which gives you the forensic tie back of where did this come from. It's all measurable. You just have to be thoughtful of what does each person need to get there.
Absolutely. And that nurturing process is so important. I find it difficult to communicate that strategy to some sales and marketing people.
Oh no, I will give you my secret to that.
Oh.
Take all those sales and marketing people.
Yep.
Bring them to a bar.
There you go.
Tell them to go walk up to every single person and ask that person to sleep with them.
Exactly.
And see how successful they are.
That's exactly where I was going with it.
The more people they ask, they will eventually get a yes, but it's going to be a really low yes, and they're going to burn a lot of people who will never want to talk to them again. No. But that's how we market right now.
That's exactly right.
It's the same call to action. What are we asking people to do? Sleep.
A hand in marriage before dating. Yes.
Yep. But then have half that team go and have a conversation with people.
Yep.
And then ask those people, hey, if you're ever going to be in town, come sleep with us. You'll get more yeses.
Yes.
Yes. It's fun to say it that way because
of course.
It's risque. But that's the difference, right? The difference is the effort that you put in, and that effort that you put in, and it's not a great effort. It's just like, hi, here's who I am. Who are you? Do we have any common interest? We have common interest. Hey, by the way, this is what I do. If that's ever interesting to you, you're going to get a lot more yeses than, hey, this is what I do. Do you want it?
Why is it that you hit on a really good point? I went to HSMAI, our all industry cruise last night. And I always try to equate.
You guys have the best HSMAI chapter, by the way.
Oh, appreciate that. I'm on the board.
So good.
It's got to be me, man.
They've been good forever. So you must have been on the board forever.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I try to explain that situation of an in-person event, right? Mm-hmm. Imagine going to an event that we were at, walking up to somebody you don't know. You would naturally have small conversation. You get to know that person, even if it was just networking. And if I was there for sales, I would still have to go through a series of conversations. You wouldn't walk up to someone and say, I'm such and such, you need to buy my product. How come a lot of salespeople can understand that dynamic, but when it comes to online, they treat online completely different?
It's super easy. I know exactly why it happens. They would never do it face-to-face because of the one human aspect that everyone hates. They hate rejection.
Right.
And when you do that face-to-face, you get a lot of rejection.
But when you
do it online,
it's not. But it's not even a good idea, though.
I mean, I figured we were stripping that away from.
Got it.
If we're talking the core human psychological reason that we can understand this in face-to-face, but we don't understand it online. Well, the reason we don't understand it online is you're not present to be rejected. But let's be honest, go look at your analytics. 98 to 99% of the people who come to your website reject you.
That's right.
So, all right, let's just admit you're just not witnessing it while it's happening. So it's not making you think, hey, maybe there's something wrong here when 98 to 99% of the people that come to my website don't buy my wares. You're being rejected. You're just not witnessing it. And so you're not adjusting. You're not understanding that this is broken.
But are you equating that because digitally you're not treating each and every contact as a human being? And
again, because you're not witnessing it. It's the human condition here, right? Like, you listen, let's go train a call center together. Let's go train a front desk together. And you don't even have to go that far, because they instantly have to witness the repercussion of a bad decision in how they engage someone.
Mm-hmm.
However, online, you are not witnessing that. At worst, you see it in the P&L months later. And again, it doesn't right. attach itself to the bad behavior that you did that caused that. And so as a species, we need to experience things to know it's a really bad idea to put my hand on this hot stove. But if you don't have the instant experience of the negative repercussions of your behavior, you never learn, you never focus. And that's why it happens. That's why face-to-face as an industry, we're great. Let's even get rid of online. How long did it take us to figure that out with the phone? Right? Because we were even though you were somewhat present to hear the person hang up on you, we still weren't getting that you need to treat them the same way you would treat them if they were right in front of you.
Absolutely.
Online, it's even further removed, because you don't witness the rejection. You don't witness the abandonment and go, huh, was that because of me and me not serving that person's needs? Right? Because that's what we do when we're face to face.
That's interesting, though, because when I send a blind email and I'm not thoughtful about it, and I've done this when I was trying to learn some things with some other than ethical marketers, the spray and pray method.
Oh yeah.
Still, though, if somebody wrote me back, "Don't ever email me again," it hurt me personally, and that alone was enough to go, God, this isn't what I thought it was. It's not working. I think I might try something different. This is not a good approach.
And that's not happening in our online.
Right.
No one's calling you going, your website is repulsive. It gives me no information that I need. It's painful. I'm going somewhere else. Right. So we're not hearing that, but you can witness it. Open your analytics.
But the pain is not that severe enough then.
Well, and that's the thing. So we have to be smart to know that, okay, our normal human nature on what do we focus on is not present here. So we have to find other ways to be mindful of it. And the ones who do that, like, yeah, again, it looks like magic. Like, how did they just get it? How did they just get it? It's because they understood it's the same thing as face to face. It's just you're not paying attention to it because you're not feeling the pain in the moment. So think about it as the pain. I want you looking at your abandonment rate of your booking engine, and I want you personally hurt that happened, because if you start feeling that way, you'll start looking at it and you'll start thinking about, why is this happening? Well, it's because, first of all, the only opportunity to convert on your website is your booking engine. But guess what? 98% of your web traffic isn't ready to book yet. So maybe, I don't know, have other opportunities for them to engage with you. All of a sudden your abandonment rate's lower because, hey, look, I got 25% of the people now telling me who they are and what they want. And then I can turn those into bookings over time. You know, like, we need to change our thinking. You need to understand that what you're presenting in the digital world, you would never speak that way to a human being face to face. Full stop.
Exactly right.
You wouldn't. So start thinking that way. And this is, again, back to the main topic. Your consumer is your best marketer. It's research marketing. It's their distribution. It's their inspiration, right? Their inspiration can lead you to what your brand is. These are all the aspects, but it has to be consumer first. And consumer first means you have to feel the pain every time a consumer rejects you, or you're not going to get better.
Absolutely. Hit it right on the head. Our last topic we just served up is making your digital marketing less digital.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So get rid of digital marketing. It's marketing.
Exactly.
You do way more of it now, digital, to where anything that's not digital marketing, call that something, because everything else is marketing.
Or relationship building, I prefer.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like, marketing is trying to attract people to you, and they're not attracted to a faceless organization that
exactly right.
seems seems hesitant to give me the details that I'm looking for, right? So I'm distrusting of you instantly, because why do I have to go to 6 other sites to find out what I want to know about you? Marketing's the same as it was before digital. It's just where it's happening is what changed, but all the rules are the same. You have to tell the story, you have to sell the value proposition, you have to treat your customer right, you have to tell your customers you're going to treat them right, and you want an easy starting point on that. If I go to your website and you don't at all tell me why I should come to your city, your website is broken.
Yeah, right.
Do not assume that everyone who comes to your website has already made the decision to come to your city.
That's a
quite the contrary
assumption. Absolutely.
Yes. And I don't care. I live in Orlando, and you'd be amazed. And most of my friends are in the travel industry and have been to Orlando, and you'd be amazed at the very simple information I share with them that they had no clue about Orlando. That's insane to me when you think about the amount of marketing dollars going out to tell people about Orlando, and yet they're not telling them about Orlando. They're telling them about where they are, like them, like not Orlando, not why come here, not why spend time here, right? And so, but that's Orlando. Like everyone assumes everyone knows about Orlando, but very few people know what Orlando has to offer. By the way, fun fact: Disney is not in Orlando.
You're right. Isn't it like Washington D.C.? It's got its own.
Yeah, it's Kissimmee. It's in Kissimmee.
Okay.
But that's not Orlando, right? But like so as a marketer, if you're talking about serving the needs of people and adding value and selling your value, let's go back to real estate. Your hotel exists because of its location. You need to sell its location, and its location is more than the edges of the walls of your building.
Imagine that.
Right. Tell people why come here. Who's this for? And that's the other thing I think that happens. I think people are afraid. Marketers are afraid to like paint the picture of who your product is for, because they feel like now there's not enough people that are going to want
I want to be everything to all people, Ed. Come on.
Right. Which then means you're nothing to everyone.
Exactly.
So when we talk about removing the digital, go back to the basics of how you sell things, how you market things. None of that's changed. It's just the way you deliver it has changed. That's it. We still have the same basic needs as a species. Sure, we're pickier about things and we have choices now, which we didn't have before. But all that means is you just need to nail it. You need to nail selling your value proposition. And if you sell your value proposition, you're all of a sudden going to find that your consumer is much less tied to rate sensitivity.
That's exactly right. That becomes an afterthought, right? Yeah. Somehow you find the budget. If the why is strong enough.
Apple has proven that.
Absolutely.
Why is it I have no problem buying a new $1,200 phone, and yet I will hold on to an $1,800 laptop? And I'm mad if it doesn't make it 7 years.
Exactly.
Because Apple figured out how to make me feel the value proposition of that phone.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't take Apple to do that with things.
It's funny you said I study gap selling, which is and it refutes the whole concept of BANT, right?
Right.
And one of their mantras is budget should not be part of the equation. Because right. if the value proposition is strong enough and all the other things align, they'll find the budget. Budget should not be a challenge. And I've always thought that's very interesting, because you're absolutely right. You make that value proposition strong enough, there's a way. Absolutely.
Yeah, there is. It may affect timing, but it won't affect the decision.
For sure.
Right. And I said that because there may be people going, yeah, but there's some people that just can't afford $4,000 for my product. And they may not be able to afford it next week, but if they want it bad enough, they will find a way.
Oh, but they have the easy payment program, Ed. Come on, there you go.
There you go.
That barrier has been obliterated. Somehow they make pretty much everything affordable if that why is strong enough.
Yep, $19.99.
Yes.
170 easy payments of $19.99.
That's exactly. Forever. So, it's fun. I always found that funny about car shopping. It's never about the end price. It's always about how much can you afford monthly, right? We'll adjust, We'll adjust the frequency to make the payments fit your monthly budget.
Yeah, you have a 90-month.
It's a mortgage.
Yeah, exactly. So I know you asked for this to be 15 minutes, and I know you, from knowing me, knew that this wasn't going to be anywhere near 15 minutes.
No. In fact, I got one more question for you.
I love it. Let's hear it.
I want to hear some Ed St. Onge secret sauce. It doesn't have to do anything with hospitality, marketing, sales in general. I want to hear your best nugget as of right now.
All right. So it's a little crude, but it's actually something I live my entire life around.
Oh.
And it's the secret to my success, the success of my businesses, the success of my employees. Are you ready?
Man, you got me on the edge of this.
You're not going to be able to print it anywhere because, unfortunately, and you'll instantly know I'm right, don't be a dick.
Yeah.
And I'll go into what I mean by that. There are times in your life where you have you're completely within your right to be a dick to someone because of what they did to you. But you know what? Don't. And instead, put good karma out there.
Love it.
And eventually, you do that enough, and you build an army of people around you that want you to be successful, and they want to be successful with you. And the people who, for whatever reason, they gave you the right to be one, but you chose not to, will eventually be out of whatever that situation was that had them acting that way. Absolutely. And they will remember that you had every right to act differently than you did, but you didn't. And guess what? They want to be around you. I have always lived by that. I've asked my employees to live by that. I don't care how bad someone's treating you. Understand that probably has nothing to do with you.
That's a really good point. Yes.
And they often don't feel good that they're treating you that way. So don't reciprocate. Instead, just be good to people. You'd be amazed. Like, that is the secret. That is my secret sauce. Everything I do works because it all comes down to that thing. Don't be a dick.
I love that. That's great. I know it's a lot, oftentimes very easy said than done, right?
It's hard. Like, it's my secret sauce, but man, it takes work. And it takes being able to, in the moment, back away. But I will tell you what, it pays off in spades.
I bet.
And it's in everything, right? It's in everything that you do. It will impact your professional career. It'll impact your company. It'll impact your relationship with your spouse. It'll impact your relationship with your friends. Just don't do it. And eventually it stops getting so hard because you experience so much of the positive of what that does for you that in the moment, it's not even hard anymore to just not be that way. You can just know that what I'm experiencing from you has nothing to do with me. So there you go.
That's
put that on a fortune cookie and never give it to a kid.
Man, that was good. I love that. Just the amount of spice we need to end this conversation.
There you go.
Always love and enjoy our convos. I think an hour flew by.
Yes, it did. We're always that way, though, aren't we?
That's right, exactly. But I can't wait for our next one and our showdown coming up. That's a little bit more feisty. So looking forward to picking up some more combo then, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for putting this together. I always enjoy our conversations, and obviously we see the world very much the same way. So it was very fun. Felt like 15 minutes.
And that's the way it's supposed to be, right?
That's right.
Fantastic. Have a good one, brother. Take care.
Thanks, you too. And saying.